Hello, I recently got back from Florida, and when we were there, we toured an old house, and it was an artist house, and there was one porch, and it had all of this seashell trim because it was on the coast of Florida, and they had vine shells, and they used it on the trim, and it was so cool. So I came home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. I'm like, where could I do this? And the only door in my house without trim is my she shed, and I'm like, that is a great place to try this because it's so low stakes. Like, I'm in there and I create in there and I like it, but I don't live in there. You know, it's not like my bedroom or a kitchen where if I don't like it, that'd be a big deal. So I'm just gonna go for it in my she shed. I think it's gonna be really fun. So for this project, what I got is a bunch of shells. You can buy them at Joann. It's like $6 per bag. Use your coupon. And then I also got some glass beads. I got some mosaic, like petal shaped pieces off Amazon, which I will link everything in the description. And I decided to create with those items. And the first thing I did was make a layout. So I messed around and I made like a good pattern and just like kept rearranging until I was happy with it. The first side I decided to do was the smaller door because I was like, let's start with the small door instead of the big double wide door. And so before I do projects like this, I do a lot of research, and I couldn't find any tutorial on doing a seashell mosaic trim or any type of mosaic trim, but I did find a tutorial on making a seashell backsplash and a seashell table. So I used parts of those to figure out how to successfully do mine, and I am really happy with what I learned. So let me tell you the steps I did. So first off, after you make your layout, you need to tape off where you're wanting to do your trim. And the tape, I was like, oh, will this be helpful? It's like way more thick than paint. It was very helpful. Do not skip this step. So on the sides, it was really easy because I just needed to go straight down. But on the top, it was trickier because I needed to do an arch. And the best way to tape an arch is to cut your painter's tape so it's really skinny, and then use the side you didn't cut, the flat side, and do that for the arch. So I made my layout, I measured it, I figured out like how big it was at certain points, and then I drew that on the wall, and then I taped over that. So that worked really good. And then what I'm using for the mortar is tile adhesive. I really thought about using grout, but the tile adhesive will really stick everything together. So to apply the tile adhesive to the wall, I just had a trowel that you use for tiling, and then I would try to make it as flat as possible. And this is an important step. One thing I did learn was if you dip your trowel into some water, it'll kind of smooth things out even better. So making sure it's smooth is a very key step, because if there's like ridges and stuff, you will see that once it dries. So make sure it's as smooth as possible, and then you're also going to want to work in sections. So maybe do a 2-fix section at a time, get the tile adhesive really smooth on there, and then you're going to start pushing in your mosaic pieces. Okay, so for the sides, I just did a pattern that I made up, so I put each piece of the pattern into a different bowl so I could easily reach it and hurry and put it up. So I was trying to work fast, but the tile adhesive had some time, at least 20 minutes. So after I do a section, I move on to the next section. For the top, my husband arranged everything onto a board and then brought it down to the she shed for me. It was very nice of him. And then I pulled items off the board and put it like as close to what it was up onto the top, onto the actual space. So one note is when you make your layout, make sure you measure what you're doing, and so that your layout's the exact same size as your door frame, obviously. Okay, so I finished the one side, and I was really happy with how smooth it went. I tried to pull the tape as I went, and honestly, I think if you just did the whole door frame and then pulled it, it would be best, but you don't want it to dry because it's mortar, it's hard. So you want to pull it first, and I am not going to be grouting this at all. I've done a mosaic table in the past, and I did grout it, and that was the worst part, but because I kind of pushed this in the tile adhesive, I don't think you need it. And at that house I toured, the Bonnet house, they definitely didn't have grout. It was just pushed into it kind of looks like cement what they use, but I used tile adhesive and it's worked great. So I definitely recommended it, and bonus points, I had some in my house. So for the second side, I did the exact same steps. I decided to not do the sides because I didn't think on the big door it really needed it. I'm just doing the top. When making your layout, here's some tips that worked for me. Number one, start with your item that you're having in the middle. I'm doing a butterfly on one side and this like floral piece I found in France on the other side. Start with that. then create your border. So I did a pattern for each. The bottom has mostly shells, the top has a combination of mosaic pieces and shells. And then once you have the top and bottom figured out, you can lay out the middle. And what I like to do is come up with one item from the one side and then do it on the other side. A lot of times I'd be like, I'm gonna do a shell here, so I'll do it on this side. So both sides are symmetrical. And then at the very end, you're gonna wanna fill in because you want to see as little of the mortar as possible. And I also like to bring some extra pieces of just like the glass mosaic pieces so that when I'm done, if I have any big holes, I can fill in with those. Okay, I had some thoughts for you as I'm putting up my second side. So number one, work really hard on your layout because the better the layout is, the better it's gonna look once it's up there. So make time and get really creative. Do it as well as you possibly can. On the table, that's the easiest place to make changes and make it look amazing. Number two, so I've lived in Florida. I love seashells. I love the nautical feel, but I live in Utah now. A lot of people are like, you can't have shells in your house, it's against the rules. Who cares about those rules? If you love shells, if you love anything, you can put it in your house. So don't pay attention to those silly rules. Number three, because I'm using seashells, this is really kind of like a mermaid kind of look, and I very much like that. And you could use this same process on a tabletop. I've seen people do shells on a tabletop and then put glass on top of it, and I would still do the same method. Tape off the sides, use tile adhesive, and then just push in the items. So I think the mosaic look is really coming back. It was more of like a 90s look, but like everything else is coming back. You can see accessories with shell mosaic is like trays and light switch covers. So you can really get creative with this and do it on a much smaller scale if doing it as trim is overwhelming for you. I want to show you the finished mosaics. The first side is the smaller side and it's a little chaotic with all the butterflies above it, but I still really like it. And then I do think the second side probably looks better because I took everything I learned from the first side and it doesn't have anything going on above it, which I think looks really good. And then in any open spots I had, I grabbed a bunch of just like clear ball marble glass things that were from the same kit of glass pieces, and I just put them in the extra places, and I think they look really cute. I think it feels like an artistic touch. This isn't something that's like cookie cutter that you can find in any house, and I really like that. It's just in my she shed, so it was fun to kind of take an artistic risk in this space because it's not like I go in there maybe once a day for 5 minutes, so it's somewhere I can do something fun and unexpected, and that's what I really like about this project. Anyway, if you like it, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear your thoughts, and if you do enjoy this video, please give it a thumbs up so I can make more just like it.